um, talking about some of the work we've been doing in the 5G-MAG reference tools. Um, and that's an open source exercise within 5G-MAG, where we're trying to bring some of the 3GPP specifications to life. So yeah, that's what I'll be talking about today. And really, our overriding aim is to implement something called 5G media streaming. And what that does at a very high level is to drive a much more effective collaboration between mobile media applications and mobile networks than has been possible before. And it's all about the quality of experience, really, at the end of the day. So I guess well, 3GPP asked itself whether it could improve this quality of experience by getting the apps to collaborate with the networks themselves. And what they did was they created a set of technical specs. This was supported by lots of companies. I've listed a few of the contributors there, but there are many more. It covers both the content distribution and the content contribution space. So what in mobile networks we would call downlink and uplink. Although it has to be said that the uplink is a bit weaker in some of the early releases, but it's being worked on right now in release 18 of 3GPP to improve that. And just by the by, we're also quite well aligned with the current direction of travel in the mobile industry, which is all about exposing features of the networks. There are some organizations working on that. GSM Alliance in particular is sponsoring some work called the Open Gateway Initiative, and it's collaborating with the Linux Foundation to create a load of APIs in the Kamara project. But yeah, that's just a little footnote. Back to 5G media streaming. Well, this slide really describes the 5 key features. It's all about segment-based CDNs, really, at the end of the day, and improving how they operate in mobile networks. The important thing, though, about this content hosting feature, number one, is that the CDN can be deployed either inside or outside the mobile network, and it supports all of your favorite features. I've listed a couple there, but there are many more. But where it gets interesting is in the features that 5G media streaming adds. There's a feature called network assistance, and it can support things like recommending a bitrate that you can stream at reliably in the network based on the current utilization of the mobile network. And if your playback buffer is running a bit short, you can ask the network for a short delivery boost to help you replenish that quickly. Maybe after you've gone through a tunnel in your car or something like that. And then there's a new feature in release 18 that we're working on at the moment to support background data transfer. So, for example, if you're a bit kinder to the network by reducing your network quality of service, the network might reward you by 0 rating that transfer. And then it can use that spare capacity to give other people delivery boosts. So, it's push and pull. So that's network assistance. Dynamic policies are a third feature, and that allows the application to declare to the network what service operation point it really wants to achieve its current streaming objectives. And that might be set once at the start of the streaming session, or it might vary during the streaming session. And the interaction between the application and the network allows the network rather to deliver that experience in a more reliable way. And then the fourth and fifth features are to do with reporting. The client can report its quality of experience in a set of metrics, and those can be used for either non-real-time audit or even perhaps in the future real-time shifting of resources around in the network. And then lastly, the client can report its consumption, and that includes CDN access log type stuff as well. So those are the features. Now for a little bit of architecture. So here's a very, very simple picture of the 5G system from release 15 onwards. On the left, you've got the user equipment, and that's your smartphone or some kind of fixed device. And on the right-hand side, in the green box, is the 5G core, well, part of it, just 3 of the functions, in fact. The user plane function, which delivers packets the service management function, and the policy control function. And the reason I'm showing those is because the 3GPP. Oh, sorry, I beg your pardon. I need to show you this first. This is kind of general over-the-top streaming. So you've got CDN at the bottom there, and some origin server delivering to a media player under app control. So that's kind of best effort over the user plane function. The interesting bit though is this reference point N5, which allows the policy control function to expose APIs to any application function. And what we've done in 3GPP is to take that and develop this 5G media streaming architecture. So at the bottom of the diagram, the labels of the boxes have changed slightly. The CDN is called a 5GMS application server. The media player is called a media stream handler, but they're essentially doing the same jobs. The interesting bit is above, because it allows something on the application side, this media session handler, to invoke an API on this 5G media streaming application function. And then that allows the application to indirectly interact with the policy control function. So that's where the magic happens. And all of that is under the control of a 5GMS aware application at the top left there. So just to explain a little bit of 5G-MAG's role, it has this role of a market representation partner in 3GPP, representing the media industry vertical to the mobile industry. And it has some influence over the 3GPP roadmap. It can put contributions in at the start of each release, at the scoping stage. But in addition, there's this reference tools initiative that 5G-MAG is curating to try and implement the specs. And what that means that we can actually take the specs and work out what works and what doesn't work and provide feedback to 3GPP. 5G-MAG developed a load of use cases a couple of summers ago. They're summarized there. I won't go through them in any great detail, just to say that we've been working on the first 3 for the past year or so. And they all concern 5G media streaming. The 2 at the bottom are things that will be enabled by this work to deliver hybrid services. And DVBI is one I'll come back to at the end. We've got a roadmap. I won't go into that because it's got a lot of extreme detail, but just to mention that we're using a lot of open source software. So our application server on the bottom right is based on the OpenResty release of Nginx. We've built our own application function, but we used a framework called Open5GS to do that. On the client side, we've got a media player based on ExoPlayer. This is running on Android, so that's a good choice. Our colleagues at Fraunhofer Focus have developed a media session handler as an Android service, and that media player, that EXO player, can be combined with the application, which has also been developed by Fraunhofer Focus. I should say that we've had lots of input from lots of other companies as well, especially Qualcomm and Dolby. That's our feature matrix. So it just shows that we've done quite a lot in the past year or so. We've got quite a bit pending release at the moment that's almost ready to go. We're hoping to get that out before Christmas. And then we've got a few to-dos, especially on network assistance and dynamic policies at the bottom of the table on the client side. We've been demoing this year. This was demoed at Fraunhofer's Media Web Symposium. We demoed it internally at the BBC as well. And it's also been to Beijing in China as part of BMSB 2023. And then most recently of all, we showed this at IBC on the EBU stand, and there was plenty of interest there. So what's next for us, really? Well, having integrated this application function with the policy control function, we'd really love to test it out on some real 5G cores. We've been using some open source 5G cores so far, and we found that there's quite a lot of gaps. So we're very interested in testing that on real 5G cores. In the meantime, we've also been prototyping a new release 18 feature called service URLs using Android intent filters to launch things in a bit more slick way. There's all this stuff on uplink media streaming coming in release 18, and our colleagues in the second working group 2 of 5G-MAG are interested in those for content production and contribution use cases, and that's something they'll be looking at next year. We've also been, well, we had a contribution from Dolby earlier in the year. I think we saw that in an earlier presentation from Sophia Digital, the DVB-I reference client for Android. So that's been contributed to 5G-MAG, and we're hoping to integrate that with our existing 5G MS-aware application very soon to try and bring the best of both worlds. So 5G media streaming combined with the DVB-I stuff. And then lastly, there's a feature to do with collecting, reporting, and exposing event data to do with 5G media streaming, and that's something we're hoping to work on next year. So how do I get involved? I'm sure you're asking yourselves. This is a map of the different open source repositories that we've been working on, the client side stuff on the left-hand side, the server side stuff on the right-hand side. There's lots of places that you can contribute if you want to. This is the way that we're organized. We have a Slack instance and various different channels where we chat about stuff. We have some calls. There's a public one, which is going to monthly cycle next year, I believe, all on Friday. And then the other 3 Fridays of the month, we have internal calls for 5G-MAG members. And we also have Google Groups where we make announcements. And then lastly, we have organized our development around GitHub. So we have project boards with various different projects on, and there's a little nice link there to some getting started material if you want to get involved. And I think that is me done. Yes, thank you very much.